Hi, I'm Rob Kellogg, and we're going to talk about scaffolding safety today. Briefly, we want to make sure that a few items are taken care of before we get involved with scaffolding. And that each scaffold is required to be fully planked at every surface that you're working on, no partial planking. We also want to make sure that spaces that are adjacent between the two scaffold pieces does not exceed 1 inch. So we have to keep those gaps fairly narrow. We also want to make sure our walking surface itself doesn't exceed does not go less than 18 inches. 18 inches is the minimum width that we want to walk with. And then if you're going to work off a platform, on a scaffolding platform, and you have a work surface, meaning the wall that you're working off of, the actual plank in which you actually walk on is where the measurement's taken, not the piping system or the framework. You only want to measure from the actual scaffold to the working surface. So that should be no more than 14 inches. If you're doing siding, EIFS, stucco kind of operations, they actually give you an additional 4 inches. So 18 inches would be your maximum distance in those operations only. Anything else, you must keep it within 14. All right, make sure that your supports hold your planking systems, and those planking systems exceed the center of your support at least 6 inches. You want to make sure that if you've got your support and your planking goes beyond that support, you want to make sure that that is no less than 6 inches and no more than 12. If you have a system that runs from this support to your next support that's more than 10 feet, we can go up to 18 inches. So the first is 6 to 12, and the next is 6 to 18 when we're doing that. So these again are pretty rare, hard to find. These are the most common. So 6 to 12 inches on your overlap on that. It's very important. When you're building a scaffold, your base to height ratio is a 4 to 1, meaning if I've got a 5-foot scaffold system from center to center, this is 5 feet, I can do it a multiple of 4, meaning I can go up 20 feet, 5 times 4, 20. If this is 3 feet, then it's 3 times 4, 12 feet. So we have to do a 4 to 1 ratio when we're building those. And then when you go beyond that, that's when you have to brace and do guide wire. If you go higher than 20 feet, you'll have to start to repeat your 4 to 1 tying off. At the 20-foot 6 mark, if it's greater than 3 feet wide, your top restraint's got to be at least 4 to 1 in your height. Restraints are required and installed horizontally. You can find this under the regulation. Once you reach the 26-foot mark, you start doing it every 20 feet. Make sure that you guide wire tie off. And this is something that you'll look for when you get onto those systems, if they're taller than 20 feet. Now, restraints have to be required if you're going to eccentrically load, meaning as we're looking down on top of that scaffold section, if we put our load on the end, it's out of the center line, right? It's going to be heavy on one side. Your energy is going to want to pull it away. So we want to make sure that we tie it or restrict it from moving at these points to keep that load from shearing that system away from its center point. Watch for those. You see that a lot, especially in the masonry industries. Support scaffold, make sure your base plates are established, and they should be sitting on mud sills. Mud sills are at least 2 inches thick. And we want to make sure that they're no less than 12 inches by 12 inches wide. That's minimum, and that's for every base plate that sits on your platform. So your base plate will go here, and the tubular systems with your screw jack accordingly to make sure you're putting it plumb. Make sure when you're setting up your scaffold systems that they don't get anywhere near electrical lines once you reach that 50 kilovolts, 5 kV, we will make sure that we're at least 10 feet away. If we can't do that, we're going to have to insulate that, and then we'll reduce that with utility orange sleeved insulation systems that are out there. So never work within 10 feet of a live electrical line. Make sure that that doesn't jump out at you. And make sure a competent person sets this up before you get on it. Now, every day it needs to be inspected. It has to have a tag on it for that day's inspection. A green tag states that it's been inspected, it's good to use as is. A yellow tag can be utilized, but there are restrictions and have minimal operational capabilities. So you have to make sure you read that and what those restrictions are. You see a red tag, that means inoperable, unusable, and we want to make sure that we don't get involved with that whatsoever. Okay. So again, red tag, don't use it. Yellow tag, be sure that you make sure and understand what your restrictions are before you get on there. And a green tag means it's good to go. Now, when we have a span, if we're super loading it from one end to the other, and we have a droop, we have a load on there that's causing a sag, so to speak. We want to make sure that this distance here is in a ratio of 1 to 60. It does not exceed that. So if we have a pretty common expanse of 10 feet, we'll divide that by 60, and that will be 2 inches. So from here to here, this distance of droop cannot be more than this. If it is, it's overloaded, and we need to reduce the load or increase the lift capacity. And finally, guardrail systems. Make sure your guardrail systems are on all sides when you're utilizing this, and they must maintain at least a 38-inch requirement. Minimum 38 inches to 45 inches. And that has to be from the walking surface where your feet are planted to where that measurement is taken. So we don't want to go any less than 38 inches according to the regulation under subpart L. Be sure and establish a good foothold whenever you're on scaffolding. Scaffolding is the #1 falling hazard within the industry. We want to make sure that if we're going to work off of scaffolds, that we do it safe. We make sure that we're paying attention to what we do before we get on it, and as well as during the operations itself. So if you have any questions, always feel free to call us. That's what we're here for. Thank you, and have a safe day.